Hey there YouTube, it's Aisha and I'm filming a video of a review for Copycat by Kimberla Lawson Roby. I might have to put in a picture since this is so bright it's not showing up. I'm sitting right in front of the window so it's hitting this wrong. But this is the book, Kimberla Lawson Roby's Copycat. This is another one of the small books, not necessarily in the Curtis Black series, but is in the same world. So this book deals with it was very meta. This book deals with an author who decides to mentor another author, a new and up-and-coming romance author, and the new up-and-coming romance author's sinking into crazy. So it starts with Simone, who is a romance author who absolutely loves Tracy's work, and Tracy decides to help her out by giving her some info and all the things that she wishes she had known when she launched her writing career. And her family and friends are all trying to tell her, you know, just be careful because, you know, people see you have a good heart and they will try to take advantage of that. So she decides to go ahead anyway and be this woman's friend, and it's just the story as it advances. It deals with copycatting, where people, I think I've mentioned this before, where there is a phenomenon known within the psychological community about people who take on the personality of the strongest person in the room or the strongest person around them, and it's generally a way for them to deal with trauma so you don't have to deal with your own life if you're not yourself. So this is the reason Simone does that, and it is a fantastic look at what motivates her and how far it goes, and just how deeply disturbing it can be for the person who's being copycatted and for the people in the life of the person who is copycatting. And I thought it was a fantastic story. I do wish we had gotten more of an ending, although we got a brief ending in there. One thing I do love about Kimberla Lawson Roby is the fact that she loves to talk about not just her faith and the faith of her characters, but therapy. She advocates therapy wonderfully. She talks about it all the time in her books, and it's in just about every book I've read by her, where therapy, not just spiritual therapy, but actual psychological therapy, is used to help the characters advance, and I love it. This book was a brief, quick read, and I was really upset because I was reading it the day it was raining, and my book fell in the rain, and now it's like warped. But there are moments within the book that are like, I had to highlight them. There was a moment where she goes to Curtis Black's church, and Curtis had a word for her, and if you're in the church, you know what that means. This sermon was specifically picked for her. God knew she was coming and put it on his heart and had him out there preaching, and she was just oblivious. And it just made me cackle because there's so many people that are like that I know. Like, you'll be talking to them about something they're doing and they don't see it that way. They don't understand why you're talking about it. She was oblivious, and it was just hilarious. I absolutely enjoyed this. I gave this one 4 stars because I did love it. But now for the criticism. For the first half of the story was told in a weird tone, and I don't know if that was because Simone is so separated from her life that she doesn't know how to really talk about herself. So normally when you're discussing your actions and thoughts, you don't think Aisha does, you don't think Simone does, but yet in the book Simone would think of that. Like, she would think of herself kind of in that third person way, and it was just weird to read. And Tracy as well. And then about halfway through the book that got dropped, and the narrator was telling you the story of what was happening, so you got a little bit more nuanced as the story progressed. But if you didn't get through that part, you're gonna miss out on a good story. And then it felt like the story was more telling than showing, where we were being told all the things she was doing and why these things were wrong, but the character didn't seem to connect those things. And I'm like, well, I know it's wrong. You don't need to tell me it's wrong. Just show me the progression of the story and the things that were happening. So there are moments within the story that are just, I didn't like the fact that the It felt like the author was pushing it on you, like this is really, it's just, and you're like, yes, I get that. I need to progress the story a little bit. I can get that. It felt like this was being written for a younger audience. It didn't feel like it was being written for an adult. It felt like this was something that a younger audience could have picked up and read, and they wouldn't have had a problem. Sorry that you've been moved. My camera died. But as I was saying, my one critique was that it was really kind of written in a way that didn't allow you as the reader to kind of narrate the story yourself or get into the story. You were being told what was happening, and it didn't feel like it was written for an older audience. It felt like the author was holding your hand through the story and telling you everything that was wrong and why it was wrong. And it just, for a good part of it, it really was kind of off-putting, but I pushed through and enjoyed it at the end. As I said, that kind of outer narration drops off in midway through the book, and the tone changes. So I do highly recommend it. As I said, it's very meta. It's very funny for me to see an author writing a book about an author who's having issues with another author. It was just, I enjoyed it. And one of the reasons I say it was meta, in the book, the author is writing a book about copycats, and the book that she's writing, the character is dealing with copycat syndrome from a friend, and it's just so she's writing a book about copycatting, and in this book she's being written about copycatting. It was just, I loved it. I loved it so much. So I highly recommend, if you're into that. I do think that it will take a little bit to get into the story, but once you're in, you're good, and it goes and it flows really well. It took me a day to read this, so I highly recommend it. I thought it was really good. So once again, 4 stars for Copycat by Kimberla Lawson Roby. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know if you read it and what you thought about it, and if you've ever heard of copycat syndrome. There is a more technical term, but that's the the basics of it. I'll leave a link down below to Kimberla Lawson Roby's website and all of her info about her books, and you guys can check me out on Facebook and Twitter and tell me what you think about the book, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.